So this is an extremely important video. We're going to talk about the MAC-10 inside Season 2. Since all of the attachments did get changed, we're going to go over the stats for each individual attachment and then at the end letting you know what the best class setup is. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave us a like, as it takes us some time to put together videos like this and test all of the weapon attachments. Also, subscribe to the channel as we're trying to reach our goal of 10,000 subscribers and we want to achieve that goal very soon. And click the link in the description and follow us over on Twitch. On screen now you'll see the MAC-10 and we're going to go through most of the attachments. We haven't had the time to test every single attachment for this gun, but we're mainly focusing on barrels, muzzles and underbarrels here, and we've also tested ammunition as well. But in terms of muzzles, first of all, most of these, other than the sound suppressor, do mention that they help with vertical recoil. So that is what we tested for the muzzle attachments, is mainly recoil. Now, the agency suppressor does state that it reduces your effective damage range, and this is kind of one of the main issues with the agency suppressor at the moment, and that's the reason why you want to kind of stay away from using this attachment. But we haven't actually tested damage range yet, because you shouldn't really use the agency suppressor anyway unless you're just wanting the recoil benefits at the moment. It is a good medium range SMG, and you don't want to affect that damage range if you have to. So what we'll show on screen now is actually the recoil charts for all of the muzzle attachments, and what you'll be able to see is the base weapon on the very left, the muzzle brake, then the flash guard, then the sound suppressor, infantry compensator, SOCOM eliminator, and then the agency suppressor. Now what you can see here is that most of these attachments, like they state in game, are supposed to affect vertical recoil, and the ones that mainly affect vertical recoil the most, in my opinion, are the infantry compensator and the SOCOM eliminator. And I do think the infantry compensator does a slightly better job at controlling maybe side to side recoil as well. I know it's not stated in game that's what it does, but it seems like it's a bit narrower compared to the SOCOM eliminator. So if you're trying to find the best attachment for vertical recoil, in my opinion, I think it's the infantry compensator out of all of the muzzle attachments. Don't get me wrong, the agency suppressor does a decent job here too, as well as the SOCOM eliminator, but there are the three main attachments that you want to use. And I suppose that when the agency suppressor does get fixed, that it will still have this property as well. It will just also boost your bullet velocity as well as damage range, so that will be the no-brainer attachment. Before we move on to other attachments, I do want to show the other pros and cons that these attachments do have, because that might decide on whether or not you want to use a certain attachment or not. So muzzle brake has no cons, flash guard also has no cons, sound suppressor also reduces your effective damage range, which is very similar to the agency suppressor. The infantry compensator does state that it gives you worse horizontal recoil control, but from the recoil chart that I showed you earlier on, it seems like the infantry compensator doesn't have as much horizontal recoil compared to some of the other attachments, which is really weird. So either it was the randomness of the recoil, or it does actually help with horizontal recoil. This seems to be a bit weird to me, and we'll need to do some further testing to make sure this works. And then the SOCOM eliminator reduces your ADS movement speed, your shooting movement speed, and it also gives you more horizontal recoil. So that was very obvious from the recoil chart actually, but in my opinion, if you're looking for the best vertical recoil control, I still do think the infantry compensator is the best option here. Moving on to the barrel attachments now. In terms of barrels, we're going to go over the bullet velocity values. Now, some barrels do increase bullet velocity and they also increase damage range. We haven't tested damage range yet, but we will show you what the bullet velocity values that we got. So on screen now, you'll see the bullet velocity values as well as the percentage increase. So for the base bullet velocity of the MAC-10, it's 340 meters per second, and that is the base bullet velocity for the gun. Then you can see that the extended barrel boosts the bullet velocity by 41%, all the way up to 480 meters per second. The bullet velocity on the reinforced heavy barrel boosts the bullet velocity up to 580 meters per second, and that's about 70%. And then the bullet velocity for the Ranger barrel is the best bullet velocity that you can get for the MAC-10, and that is going to give you an increase of 86% at 633 meters per second. The rifled barrel doesn't do anything again, and then the task force barrel, which does increase recoil by the way, which we'll get onto in just a second, but boosts your bullet velocity to 525 meters per second, which is 54%. Now, going over the attachments and any other pros and cons it has. So for the extended barrel, there's no cons, so this is decent because you do get a 41% bonus in bullet velocity, but no cons. Then for the Cavalry Lancer, it doesn't really do anything besides extend your damage range. Now, this is useful, but damage range is only good if you've got the bullet velocity to back it up as well. So I wouldn't really use the Cavalry Lancer, even though it doesn't have any cons. The reinforced heavy barrel does give you a really good bonus of 70% to your bullet velocity. It does also increase your effective damage range, but it does give you a con to your sprinting movement speed as well as your aim walking movement speed. So that's a trade-off you're going to need to decide for yourself, whether you'd rather have the faster bullet velocity and the extended damage range, or if you don't mind sacrificing that movement speed. The Ranger barrel, in my opinion, is the main one that you should be using. This gives you the fastest bullet velocity out of all the barrels for the MAC-10, and it does give you one con to your aim walking movement speed. You really shouldn't be aiming and walking quite a lot with this gun anyway, because of the fact that it is an SMG, you should be moving around a lot. But like I said, it's one con and it's the best bullet velocity out of all of the attachments. For the rifled barrel, it doesn't give you any bonus to bullet velocity. It does extend your damage range, very similar to the Cavalry Lancer, but again, you need the bullet velocity to back it up. And the Task Force barrel increases your recoil way too much, so I wouldn't even recommend using this. I know it gives you a 54% bonus to bullet velocity, but because it affects your recoil so much, I can't really recommend it. So the next thing we need to take a look into is actually the underbarrel attachments. And we're only taking a look at 3 of them because only 3 help with recoil. So that's the foregrip, the field agent grip, and the SFOD speed grip. Now, the rest of these actually help with hipfire now, or movement speeds of some kind, and we've not actually tested those 3 yet. But they do help with hipfire accuracy. I've tested it somewhat, but I've not got exact values for it yet. But in terms of recoil charts, I'm going to bring that up on screen just now. And what you'll see is the base weapon on the very left, the foregrip, the field agent, and then the SFOD speed grip. And in my opinion, the last 2 underbarrels are the best 2. So the field agent or the SFOD speed grip. Now, it really depends on personal preference here, because the SFOD speed grip does have a little bit more vertical recoil, but it seems like it's helping the horizontal quite a lot. Whereas the field agent does help a bit more with the vertical recoil, but has a little bit more horizontal recoil. So that's going to be personal preference. In my opinion, I would choose the SFOD speed grip here, just because controlling vertical recoil is really easy compared to controlling horizontal recoil. But let's take a look at the other kind of pros and cons for those attachments. We'll quickly go through all of the attachments actually. So for the foregrip, it has no cons, so you can use this. It does help a little bit with that horizontal recoil, but not as much as the last 2 attachments, of course. The red cell foregrip says it helps with sprinting movement speed and hipfire accuracy. Now, it does help with hipfire accuracy, but like I said, I'm not got exact values for it yet. But it does hurt your overall movement speed. The patrol grip helps with sprinting movement speed and has no cons. I wouldn't really use this. Striker grip helps with movement speed and hipfire accuracy, but with no cons, which is really good. So you could use this if you really like hip firing with the MAC-10. And the field agent grip hurts your firing movement speed, so if you're trying to shoot and move at the same time, and then your ADS firing movement speed, so whether you're hip firing or aim down sights, you're going to move overall slower when you're shooting the MAC-10. Then the SFOD speed grip gives you a bonus to your sprinting movement speed, which is pretty cool actually. So if you're sprinting around the map, you're going to move a bit quicker with the MAC-10. And then the only con is your movement speed. So I'm assuming that's if you're not sprinting and you're just kind of running or whatever, you're going to have slower movement. So this is actually a brilliant attachment. I would prefer to choose the SFOD speed grip even over the field agent grip in my opinion, just because it has the lesser of the cons. And also you don't want to hurt your movement speed whilst you're firing, because that is really important to make sure you're dodging bullets as well as firing bullets. The next attachment we tested was the ammunition attachments, and all of the ammunition attachments actually have the same con, which is just ADS time, and they all have different reload times and stuff like that as well. And what we're going to do is bring up the reload times as well as the aim down sight times for all of the ammunition attachments. So what we can see here is that the 43 round drum has a reload time of 1.7 seconds, which is pretty much the same reload time for all of these attachments. Only a few have different reload times. The aim down sight time is 167 milliseconds, which is the base ADS time for the MAC-10. Then for the fast mags, it doesn't actually reload any faster. It's 1.7 seconds for the reload as well. ADS time is the base ADS time. The reload time for the 43 round speed mag is 1.6 seconds. So it's a tiny bit faster, but not a huge amount. But you do get a con to your aim down sight time now, and that is 183 milliseconds. The exact same thing applies to the Stanag 53 round drum. And then if you're looking at the Vandal speed loader, it does reload in 1.6 seconds. And it does have the base ADS time as well. And then lastly, the one that has the worst aim down sight time is the Salvo 53 round fast mags, and that ADS time is 217 milliseconds and the reload time is 1.7 seconds. So in my opinion, the best attachment here for sure is the 53 round drum. If you don't want to hurt your aim down sight time, the best attachment to use is definitely the 43 round drum. It doesn't change your reload time, but it also doesn't hurt your ADS time, and you do get that slightly larger magazine. But personally, I would always choose to go for the 53 round mag, as you do need that inside Warzone. The last and final thing we tested was the rear grips, and the main thing we tested for this was aim down sight time, and that was really it, because some of them give you a pro to aim down sight time, and then they also help like flinch resistance and other stuff like that. But I'm going to show on screen just now exactly what they do, and none of them actually change the base aim down sight time for the MAC-10 other than I think is the SAR's jungle grip, and that actually makes the aim down sight time worse by a couple of milliseconds, which is pretty ridiculous. So again, just like before, the grip attachments don't actually affect aim down sight time, or they do negatively somewhat. So like I said, I would stay away from using any of these attachments. We've been doing that for a while now, so there's no change there at all. So now we've basically went through everything that we've tested so far for this gun, and we're going to quickly just equip everything that I've mentioned. So infantry compensator was the best muzzle attachment. For the barrel, I said the Ranger barrel was the best for bullet velocity. The underbarrel, the SFOD speed grip was the best for that. And then we had the Stanag 53 round drum in terms of the magazine attachment. So far, we have 4 attachment slots taken up. And when they fix the agency suppressor, again, I do think that these attachments will still be the best. Besides, you'll swap out the infantry compensator for the agency suppressor. But the last attachment is absolutely up to yourself now. You could add the optic on there, but I wouldn't really recommend it. You could add a laser on there, but a lot of them affect your aim down sight time, and also the laser is visible. So what I would choose is a stock attachment, and the one that I've been using for the whole time is the no stock attachment, just because of overall feel. Now it does affect your hip fire accuracy, but usually I'm aiming down sights with the MAC-10 anyway. But the SAS combat stock's a great option as well. It gives you faster firing movement speed and aim walking movement speed. And then the Raider stock's also a good option, but that hurts your hip fire accuracy the most. So like I said, personally, I would use the no stock attachment, and that is what I believe to be the best MAC-10 build in Warzone at the moment. If you enjoyed this video or learned something new, don't forget to leave us a like, as it took us a long time to test all of these attachments. Also, subscribe to the channel as we try to reach our goal of 10,000 subscribers, and follow us over on Twitch, because tomorrow we will be live streaming, so make sure you follow us over there just to come and hang out, and thank you very much for watching.